Hi, Matt. Thanks so much for doing this interview.
My pleasure, Allison. How are you?
Very good, very good. How are you?
Excellent.
So wanted to hear a little bit about your career path in choosing ADR as your first career. Why don't we start with you just sharing a little bit about how you even became aware of ADR, or what your first engagement with ADR or mediation was?
My first engagement, so my father's an attorney, and my first engagement was when I started working with him part time as just a summer gig years ago. At this point, it's probably 10 years ago. And he would kind of bring me along on depositions, and he would let me watch him in court doing motions and things like that. And then I started going to some mediations with him, and I loved it because I had taken part in things like that in high school and then in college, where it was like peer mediation kind of programs. Even silly things like being the commissioner of a fantasy football league, you still need to mediate fights between your friends. So that sort of thing always kind of interested me, and seeing it in action in the law realm was something that really piqued my interest. So when I got the chance to get into the law realm, I got into law school. I knew that mediation. I didn't really know about ADR overall at that time, but mediation was something I definitely wanted to get into and get into a big part of it, because I knew how important it was to a lawyer to know how to mediate. Because I learned at a very quickly that about 95, maybe 99% of cases settle. So to have that skill of mediating and negotiating, to me, is almost more important than having the in the courtroom lawyering skills for, at least for the kind of law that I want to go into.
So once you got into law school, what type of mediation coursework competitions did you end up taking part in?
So there's a mediation pro bono program at Rutgers School of Law, and I had known about that right away, and I joined it immediately my second semester, which is when I was able to join it. We went through a 40-hour training program. It was a Friday and 2 Saturdays. Came in, got trained by the lead mediation person, Kathy Gaskill, who runs mediation in the courts in New Jersey. A great mediator by the name of Caroline Petrilla, as well as some other local mediators came and kind of, taught us and helped us get certified in mediation for small claims, landlord tenant, and sometimes special civil part, which are claims in New Jersey that are up to $15,000. So I got involved in that program, and I started doing small claims and landlord tenant, some municipal court even, and loved it, of course. And as soon as my second year, I got involved with that program and became a student leader of the program, which I did for 2 years. And unfortunately, Rutgers didn't have a ton of ADR classes. So I took a summer mediation class that they had. I took a overview ADR class that talked about negotiation, arbitration, mediation, all that. And I took a class called International Commercial Arbitration, and I made the team for the Viz Moot Court competition, which was in Vienna. I did not win it, unfortunately, but it was an incredible experience, and it was really my first foray into arbitration, which I wound up loving, which is unsurprising considering how much I love mediation. So that's pretty much my experience through law school. And in addition to in law school, with the ABA, I got the great fortune of becoming the liaison to the dispute resolution section, which, I mean, I can't even put into words how valuable it's been for me. All the incredible practitioners I've met, all the things I've learned from just sitting back and listening to these people speak. It's almost like you're seeing textbooks in action. You're sitting at a table with the people who wrote the book on arbitration and mediation negotiation, and you're hearing them speak about how these things work, and it's just a really incredible experience, and that has made me even love it more. So now I work for the Superior Court of New Jersey as a law clerk, um, and part of my job there is to facilitate mediation in special civil part on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, and small claims on Wednesday, and landlord tenant on Thursday. And we can have up to 30 or 40 mediations in a day for landlord tenant. We have 250 cases set for trial every Thursday. So mediation is an incredibly important part of that court, because if we're not able to get these cases mediated, then there's tons of trials and they can't possibly get done in a day, and they're pushed back to the next week, and it creates a backlog that you just can't catch up on. So that's really the whole realm of my mediation at this point. The last thing I wanted to mention is I actually became a certified mediator in New Jersey. And from what they told me, I'm one of the first students ever to do that. And all I really had to do was I got my 40 hours. I took an extra course. I got a recommendation from a practicing mediator. I had 2 observations with certified mentor mediators. And after that, I was approved and I started getting cases in, and I have my own mediation practice, which unfortunately I've had to put on hold because there are conflicts with the court, of course. So that's pretty much the whole realm of my mediation experience at this point. But
That's awesome.
I love it.
Well, so when you were, because I know you just graduated, just took the bar. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
When you were looking at jobs, sort of what types of jobs were you looking for in ADR, and what type of advice did you get from professors and colleagues?
So I originally really wanted to work for a company or an organization that focused on ADR. You know, I'm talking about AAA, talking about JAMS, ICDR. I mean, all these amazing organizations, UNCITRAL. I mean, all these amazing organizations that really focus on arbitration, mediation, negotiation. And the advice I got from a lot of practitioners, a lot of professors was save that for down the road. Get some experience. Learn about, a couple different types of law, or as many as you possibly can, because to be effective in these as arbitrators or mediators for these companies, you need to come in with some sort of background, some sort of resume that people want to mediate with you. And I saw this problem as a solo practitioner mediator at such a young age, that people were saying, we have mediators we like working with, so we're going to work with them. And I would get letters from them, and I'd send it back to the court. They've chosen a different mediator. And obviously that's hard to overcome because you need to mediate some cases to build it up. So I'm hoping that, 5-10 years down the road, once I have some experience, people get to know me, that working for one of those companies then becomes more feasible, and I become a better employee for them because I have that experience.
Yeah. Well, I think the advice you got is makes a lot of sense, and it's the advice that I hear a lot of younger attorneys, recent graduates getting. So then how did you make the shift to the current position, and how did you find something that was so that gave you so many opportunities to practice your mediation skills and really get experience actually managing a mediation program?
Well, clerking was something I really wanted to do. Speaking to my father, and speaking to a lot of practitioners, when they look at resumes and they see judicial clerkship, I mean, that raises you up the pile immediately. Just having that experience working in a courtroom, knowing what judges like, knowing the way they want things prepared, knowing the way they want cases presented, hugely valuable for the practitioners. And so doing a clerkship was something that was always on my radar. This particular judge was a judge that I've been working with for the last 3 years through the mediation pro bono program, because he's the judge that presides over small claims, landlord-tenant, and special civil part. So I knew that this clerkship would let me have all those abilities. And really, I only applied to a few judges. I was very picky about who I was working with, because I'm one of those people that is stubborn to the point where I'm going to apply for what I really like, and I'm not going to apply to a job just for the sake of applying so I can get a job, because being miserable in a job is, to me, it doesn't make any sense. And a lot of my friends were looking at big firms, and something that's really important to me. I'm 29, so I'm a little bit older than some of my friends and colleagues in law school were, and I was looking for that life and work balance. And right now I'm working 8:30 to 4:30. Those are my hours. And I have friends that are working 7 to 8 p.m. and 13, 14, 15-hour days. I know myself, and I know I can't handle that sort of workload. So gravitating toward judicial clerkship and then maybe looking for a small mid-sized firm seemed to be the best fit for me personally. And knowing that this judge was there with all the mediation experience, he was one of the judges I applied to. I had a lot of experience in bankruptcy court, having worked for 2 other bankruptcy judges, and I had applied to the bankruptcy court, and that was certainly another option. But when it came down to it, being able to mediate every day was the sealer for me.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that what you have found is a way to both get the prestige with the judicial clerkship, but also be able to mediate and then find that work-life balance. And all of those choices is something that I think folks that are coming to this blog to see the stories of individuals who've chosen ADR as a first career, those are the choices that people are trying to make. You know, do I want the big law lifestyle, or do I want the work-life balance? And what those choices bring. So,
and they're tough choices. I mean, you really have to sit down and figure out what you're capable of. I mean, I was my 1L year at law school. I was the first one in the building. I got there the same time a security guard did because I knew I worked better in the morning. I was the first one there, but I was by no means the last one there. And I knew that I could get to work early every day, but once it hit a certain point, 5, 6 o'clock, I was done. And there were other people that got there at 8 o'clock and were able to stay till 10, 11, 12 a.m. So, you know, and those people, a few of them, they're working for big firms. They're getting their paycheck and they're super happy. They go to work, they come home, they sleep, they go to work, they come home, they sleep, and they just keep repeating that. And I just knew that wasn't for me. And even after this, even if a big firm wants to talk to me, I mean, I'll listen, but I know at the end of the day, that's not for me. So it took me a while to get to that point because I was one of those people that did everything I possibly could in law school, got my hand in everything, and the time I spent at law school, I probably spent as much time at home doing work for all those other organizations I was involved in because I was trying to build this huge portfolio to get into a big firm. And then it struck me sometime in my 2L year, oh my God, I don't want to spend my life doing this. I enjoy the law, but not enough to give my life away. Even if it was only 5 years at this point in my life, I'm not willing to give away that much time. So it's a tough decision to make, especially if you want to go that route. But for me, I have a fiance now. We're going to be looking at maybe starting a family in the next 5 years. If I'm never home, it's not really a good start to a marriage. So that's kind of where my head's at right now, and I think that I will excel a lot more being in a smaller, medium-sized firm where they need me to do a whole bunch of little different things. I'm flexible. I can do all those things, and being stuck in one section of a big firm, working those hours, just not something I would have been able to keep up with.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate you sharing your story, Matt, because I think those individual choices and really trying to figure out what makes sense for each of us individually is so important, but so hard to do, especially for those of us who come out of law school, because we're taught, what success is, this is how you're going to achieve it.
Right. There are certain tracks that they talk up, and you have to do this, this, and this to achieve this, this, and this. And the best advice I can give to everybody is blaze your own path. I'm sure you've heard that before, but it's so true. You need to figure out what you excel at, what you're comfortable with doing, because the second you step outside your comfort zone, you're going to have this moment of freak out saying, oh my God, I can't do this. And then you're stuck because you've got that job and you're getting paid and you don't have another job on the horizon, and then you've locked yourself into something that you're miserable doing. So I would really sit back and think about what you're capable of doing. And if you're capable of doing it, more power to you. Some people really have that drive to put in those days and those billable hours, and those people are going to be amazing in this field. But at the same time, I see a lot of attorneys who are solo practitioners that don't work those kind of hours and still do very well and have a great lifestyle and are very happy.
Well, I think that's a really great point to leave us on. Blaze your own path and figure out what makes you happy. And if it's big law, pursue that. And if it's not, figure out what it is so that you can find that sense of happiness as well.
Absolutely.
Right on. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.